When billionaire Elon Musk decided to surprise his mother with her dream house by the ocean, he planned every detail perfectly. The house would have everything she had ever wished for: a beautiful view, a garden for her favorite flowers, and enough rooms for the whole family to visit. But behind this incredible gift was a secret that would soon leave everyone in tears. After all his mother had sacrificed, raising him and his siblings, Elon wanted to give her the perfect thank you gift. Little did anyone know this dream house would become much more than just a place to live. It would become a place of healing for both mother and son. Elon Musk sat alone in his office. The clock on the wall showed it was almost midnight. Everyone else had gone home hours ago. Only the soft hum of computers broke the silence. He opened the bottom drawer of his desk and pulled out an old photo album. The cover was worn, and some pages were coming loose. This wasn't like the digital files everyone used nowadays. This was special. This was family. Elon flipped through the pages slowly. There was his mother, May, much younger, holding him when he was just a baby. Another showed her helping him with a science project in every photo. Her smile lit up her face. Even during the tough times, she never complained. Elon whispered to himself, "Not once." He stopped at a photo from when he was 10 years old. They were standing in front of their small apartment. It wasn't much, but May had made it home in the background. You could see a magazine open on the table. It showed a beautiful house by the ocean. Elon remembered that day clearly. His mom had pointed to that picture and said, "Someday I'd love a house like that with a big garden, and enough room for all of you kids and your children too when that time comes." But that day never came. Even as Elon's companies grew and his wealth increased, his mother had remained modest. She continued her modeling career well into her 70s and never asked for anything fancy. When Elon offered to buy her things, she'd always say the same thing: "Save your money for important things." Dear, as if his own mother wasn't important. Elon closed the album and pulled out his phone. It was late, but this couldn't wait. He scrolled through his contacts and pressed the call button. "Devin, sorry to call so late." "No problem, sir," his assistant answered, sounding wide awake despite the hour. "What can I do for you?" "It's time for Operation Homecoming," Elon said. "I found the perfect place." There was a pause on the other end of the line. "Really? That's fantastic. The coastal property in California, yes. The one with the garden space and the view of the ocean. I want to move forward immediately." Elon had been searching for the perfect house for months. He'd made Devin promise to keep it secret. No one could know, especially not his mother. This had to be the surprise of a lifetime. "I'll contact Sophia first thing in the morning. Devin said she's been keeping the seller on hold like you asked." "No," Elon said, standing up and walking to the window. The lights of the city twinkled below. "Call her now. I don't care what time it is. I want this deal locked down tonight." "Yes, sir." After hanging up, Elon pulled up the photos of the house on his computer. It was even better than the one in the magazine from his childhood. The house sat on a cliff overlooking the Pacific Ocean. It had 6 bedrooms each with its own bathroom. The kitchen was huge, perfect for family gatherings, and the garden space was exactly what his mother had always wanted. His phone rang 15 minutes later. It was Sophia, the realtor, "Mr. Musk. I just heard from Devin. Are you sure you want to proceed with the offer tonight?" "Absolutely," Elon said. "And Sophia, remember our agreement. Not a word to anyone. Of course the sellers will be thrilled. They've been holding out, hoping you would make an offer. They're big fans of your work. I'm adding an extra condition." Elon said, "I need the house ready in 6 weeks." 6 weeks? Sophia gasped. "But there are renovations needed and permits can take money." "Isn't an issue." Elon interrupted. "Whatever it costs to make it happen in 6 weeks. I'll pay it. My mother's birthday is in 7 weeks. This needs to be ready before then." After finalizing the details, Elon hung up and leaned back in his chair. For all his accomplishments, the electric cars, the rockets, the tunnels, the brain-computer interfaces, nothing had given him this specific feeling of satisfaction. This wasn't about business or changing the world. This was about the woman who had made everything possible. His phone buzzed with a text from Devon. "Offer accepted, we own the house." Elon smiled and typed back, "Start putting together the renovation team. Only the best. And Devon, we need an interior designer who can capture exactly what my mother would want already on it. Julian Carter is available. He's the best in California, book him. And remember, absolute secrecy. If this leaks to the press, the surprise is ruined." Elon walked to the small refrigerator in his office and pulled out a bottle of champagne he'd been saving for a special occasion. This qualified, he poured himself a glass and walked back to the window. "To you, Mom," he said, raising his glass to the night sky, "you gave me everything. It's time I gave something back." He took a small sip and set the glass down. There was so much to do, the house was just the beginning. He needed to plan every detail of the surprise, how to get her there without suspecting anything, what to put in each room, how to make it feel like it had always been her home. His phone rang again. It was Kimball, his brother. "You finally did it?" Kimball asked, without saying hello. "News travels fast," Elon replied. "Devon thought I should know Tosca and I want to help. You can't do this alone. I was going to call you both tomorrow. We've been waiting for years for you to do this." Kimball said, "Mom deserves this more than anyone." "I know," Elon said softly. "I should have done it sooner. Better late than never. Send me the details. Whatever you need, we're in." After hanging up, Elon returned to his desk and opened his laptop. He created a new folder and named it Mom's Dream. Inside, he placed the photos of the house ideas for the renovation and a list of everything his mother had ever mentioned wanting in a home as he worked through the night. Adding notes and details to his plan, he felt a sense of purpose that went beyond business success. This wasn't about changing the world. This was about changing one person's world. The person who had changed his. "Mom deserves this more than anyone," he whispered to himself, echoing his brother's words as the first light of dawn crept into his office. As Elon finally closed his laptop, memories washed over him like waves. He leaned back in his chair and closed his eyes, letting himself drift back to his childhood in South Africa. He was 9 years old again, sitting at the kitchen table in their small apartment in Toria. The electricity had been shut off again because they couldn't pay the bill. May sat across from him, her face lit only by a candle. Even in that dim light, Elon could see how tired she was. "It's just for a little while," she said, trying to sound cheerful. "We'll have the lights back on next week?" Young Elon nodded, pretending it didn't bother him. He was working on a circuit board by candlelight. His fingers were sore and his eyes hurt from straining to see the tiny components. "Maybe I should stop doing this modeling thing." May said more to herself than to Elon. "I could focus on nutrition clients full-time, but you love modeling." Elon said, looking up from his project. May reached across the table and ruffled his hair. "I love you kids more. Besides, the nutritionist work is more reliable." What Elon didn't know then was that his mother was working 5 jobs to keep food on the table. She woke up at 4 a.m. to do modeling shoots, taught nutrition classes during the day, saw private clients in the evening, and typed papers for university students late into the night on weekends. She worked at a restaurant. The scene in his mind shifted to a different day. Elon was 12 now, and he'd built his first computer program, a simple space game. He was bursting with excitement to show his mother. May had just come home from a long day of work. There were dark circles under her eyes, but when Elon showed her what he'd created, her face lit up like it was Christmas morning. "This is incredible, Elon," she exclaimed, studying the screen. "You're going to change the world someday." She didn't just say it. She believed it. While other adults dismissed his ideas as childish fantasies, May always took him seriously when he talked about electric cars and space travel. She didn't laugh. She listened. Another memory surfaced. Elon was 14, and he'd overheard his mother on the phone late at night. He'd gotten up for a glass of water and paused outside the kitchen when he heard her speaking softly. "I know it sounds silly at my age," Kay May was saying to her friend, "but I still dream about having that house someday." Elon peeked around the corner. His mother was sitting at the kitchen table looking at a magazine with pictures of houses. "It would be by the water," she continued, "with big windows so you can see the waves, and it would have a garden where I could grow vegetables and flowers not too big but big enough for all the kids and grandkids to visit." At the same time, she laughed softly at whatever her friend said. "No, I don't think it will ever happen. But it's nice to dream, isn't it? Besides, I'm putting everything away for the kids' education that's more important than some silly house." Young Elon had crept back to his room. A plan already forming in his mind someday, he would buy his mother that house by the water. It would have everything she wanted. The view, the garden rooms, for everyone. He'd written it down on a piece of paper and hidden it in his science book, Mom's Dream House by the Ocean. As an adult sitting in his office, Elon opened his eyes and reached for his wallet. He pulled out a worn, folded piece of paper, that same childhood promise now yellowed with age. He'd carried it with him all these years through every success and failure, a reminder of what really mattered. His phone rang, jolting him from his memories. It was Sophia, the realtor. "Mr. Musk, good news. The sellers have signed all the paperwork. The house is officially yours? Thank you, Sophia. When can we start the renovations?" "The contractor can begin tomorrow. I've forwarded all the information to Devon." After hanging up, Elon opened his desk drawer again and pulled out a child's drawing. It was crude, obviously done by a young boy, showing a big house by the water, with stick figures of a family standing in front at the top in messy handwriting. It said, "Mom's Dream House." He'd drawn it the day after overhearing his mother on the phone. Now, more than 30 years later, he was finally making it real. Elon slipped the drawing into his briefcase. He would show it to the interior designer as inspiration. Every detail of the house would reflect his mother's dreams, not his own. His phone buzzed with a text. "From Tuska, his sister Kimball told me about the house. I'm so excited. What can I do to help?" Elon smiled and typed back, "Find all of Mom's favorite books. I want her new library to be perfect." Tuska replied almost instantly, "On it. She's going to cry when she sees this place." "That's the plan," Elon texted back. He stood up and stretched. He hadn't slept all night, but he wasn't tired. There was too much to do. In 6 weeks, he would give his mother the surprise of her life, after everything she had done for him and his siblings. It was the least he could do as he gathered his things to head home for a quick shower before a day of meetings. Elon paused at the door of his office. The childhood drawing was peeking out of his briefcase. "Soon, Mom," he said softly. "Very soon." He thought about how she had always believed in him, even when his ideas seemed impossible. When he'd started SpaceX, people had laughed, "A private company sending rockets to space, impossible, but not May." She'd simply said, "If anyone can do it, you can." That unwavering belief had carried him through the darkest times, when Tesla was days away from bankruptcy, when the first 3 Falcon rockets had failed, when critics had called him crazy. His mother had stood by him. Now it was his turn to make her dreams come true. As Elon drove home through the early morning traffic, his mind was already planning the next steps he needed to coordinate with Kimmel and Tuska. They would know best how to make the house feel like home for their mother, and he needed to meet with Julian, the interior designer, as soon as possible. This would be more than just a house. It would be a testament to everything Mae Musk had given to her children. Her love, her support, her belief. It would be a thank you for all the sacrifices she had made, all the dreams she had put on hold, so that her children could pursue theirs. Elon pulled into his driveway and sat in his car for a moment, looking at the childhood drawing again. "Your turn now, Mom," he whispered. "Your turn to have your dreams come." True, 3 days later, Elon stood at the entrance of the coastal property. The ocean breeze ruffled his hair as he waited for Julian Carter. The interior designer to arrive the house was even more beautiful in person than in the photos. From where he stood, he could see waves crashing against the cliffs below, sending sprays of white foam into the air. A sleek black car pulled up the driveway. A tall man with stylish glasses stepped out carrying a leather portfolio. He looked around, clearly impressed by the property. "Mr. Musk," he said. Extending his hand, "I'm Julian Carter. It's an honor to meet you. Please call me Elon," he replied, shaking the designer's hand. "Thank you for coming on such short notice." When Devon called and explained the project, I rearranged my entire schedule. Julian said I wouldn't miss this opportunity. As they walked toward the house, Julian asked, "So this is a surprise for your mother?" Elon nodded. "She's always dreamed of a house by the ocean, but she never bought one for herself. She was too busy taking care of everyone else." Julian smiled. "That sounds like a mother." Inside the house was spacious and bright, with large windows that framed the ocean view. But it needed work. The previous owners had left their mark with unusual color choices and outdated fixtures. "We have 6 weeks to transform this place." Elon said it needs to be perfect. Julian walked around taking notes and pictures with his tablet. "That's not much time, but it's doable. What's your vision for the space?" Elon pulled out the childhood drawing from his briefcase. "This might seem silly, but I drew this when I was 14. Julian studied the drawing with genuine interest. "It's not silly at all. This is your mother's dream through your eyes. It's perfect inspiration for the next 2 hours." They walked through every room of the house. Elon shared stories about his mother, how she loved natural light, the color blue, and comfortable spaces where people could gather. "She's not flashy," Elon explained as they stood in what would be the master bedroom. She appreciates quality, but she values comfort and practicality more than luxury." Julian nodded, taking notes. "What about the kitchen? Does she cook all the time?" Elon replied with a smile. "Even now, when she visits, she insists on cooking for everyone. The kitchen needs to be special." As they moved through the house, Elon's excitement grew. He could see it taking shape, not as a billionaire's showplace, but as a warm, welcoming home where his mother could live out her days surrounded by the things and people she loved. "There's one more thing," Elon said as they finished the tour. "My mother is a nutritionist and has always been interested in sustainable living. I'd like to include a greenhouse where she can grow her own vegetables and herbs." "I know just the spot," Julian said. Leading Elon to a sunny area of the property near the garden, "We could build something here that would get perfect light throughout the day." As they discussed the greenhouse, Elon's phone rang. It was Devon, sir. "There's a problem," his assistant said. "The local weather service has issued a storm warning for the coast. It's expected to hit in 4 days and could last through the weekend." Elon frowned. How bad? High winds, heavy rain, the kind that could delay construction. After hanging up, Elon shared the news with Julian. "That could set us back," Julian said, looking concerned, "especially if there's any damage to the property." "We can't let that happen," Elon said firmly. "This needs to be ready in 6 weeks. No matter what, we'll need to secure the property before the storm hits." Julian nodded. "I'll contact contractors today. We might need to work round the clock to stay on schedule." As they walked back to their cars, Julian seemed curious about something. "May I ask you a personal question?" he said hesitantly. "Sure, you've achieved so much. You're sending rockets to space and revolutionizing the auto industry. But you seem more excited about this house than any of those accomplishments. Why is this project so important to you?" Elon paused, looking out at the ocean. "It was a fair question when I was growing up. We didn't have much," he began. "There were times when my mother had to choose between paying the electric bill and buying groceries. But she never complained. She worked 5 jobs at once to make sure we had what we needed." He turned back to Julian. "She was a model, but she'd get up at 4 in the morning to do nutrition consultations before photo oots. In the evenings, she taught classes on weekends. She worked at a restaurant, and at night after we were in bed, she'd type papers for university students to make extra money. Julian listened quietly, clearly moved by the story. When I wanted my first computer, Elon continued, she took an extra job to pay for it. When I talked about electric cars and space travel as a kid, she didn't laugh like everyone else, she believed in me. Everything I've accomplished I owe to her belief that I could do the impossible. He gestured to the house behind them. So yes, this matters more than rockets or cars. This is for the woman who made it all possible. Julian nodded, understanding in his eyes. We'll make it perfect, Elon, storm or no storm, as Julian drove away. Elon checked his weather app. The storm looked serious. Sustained winds of 50 miles per hour with gusts up to 70. It could definitely cause problems. He dialed Kimmel's number. Hey, his brother answered. How was the meeting with the designer? Good, but we've got a problem. There's a storm heading for the coast, could delay everything. How can I help? Can you come out here? I need someone I trust to oversee things if I get called away to Tesla or SpaceX. I'll be on the next flight, Kimmel promised after hanging up. Elon looked at the house one more time before getting in his car. Despite the potential setback, he felt determined a storm wouldn't stop him from giving his mother the perfect gift. As he drove away, dark clouds were gathering on the horizon. The weather app on his phone pinged with an update. The storm had been upgraded in severity and was now expected to hit sooner than previously forecast. Elon frowned at the notification, then put his phone away. Nothing is going to ruin this, he said to himself. Nothing. 2,000 miles away, May Musk sat at her kitchen table in New York. Sipping her morning tea at 74, she was still strikingly beautiful with her signature short white hair and elegant posture. Modeling agencies still called wanting her for magazine covers and fashion shows after 5 decades in the business. She had become an icon of aging. Gracefully, she opened her laptop to check her emails. There were requests for nutrition consultations, invitations to speak at conferences, and messages from friends, but one email caught her eye immediately. It was from Elon with the subject line, "Important meeting, need you, in California." May clicked it open. Mom, I need to discuss something important with you in person. Can you come to California next Friday? I'll send the jet to pick you up, plan to stay for at least a week, love Elon. May frowned slightly. It wasn't like Elon to be so vague. Usually his messages were direct and specific. And why would he need her to stay for a week? Was something wrong? She picked up her phone and called him, but it went straight to voicemail. She tried Kimball next, but he didn't answer either. Even Tuska's phone went to voicemail. This was strange. Her children were always reachable. At least by her. May checked her calendar. She had a photo shoot scheduled for next week, but she could reschedule it if Elon said it was important. Then it was important, she wrote back. Dear Elon, of course I'll come, is everything. Okay, I couldn't reach you or your siblings by phone. Should I be worried? Love, Mom. Almost immediately. She received a reply. Everything's fine. Mom just busy with some projects. Nothing to worry about. Devin will send all the details for your flight. See you soon. May relaxed a bit if Elon said everything was fine. She believed him, but she was still curious about this mysterious meeting. As she closed her laptop, her eyes fell on a photo on her wall. Elon at the launch of the first Falcon rocket. She felt the familiar surge of pride from the little boy who built rockets out of cardboard. He had grown into a man who actually sent them to space. All 3 of her children had done well for themselves. Kimball with his successful restaurants and sustainable farming initiatives, Tossa with her production company, and Elon, changing the world. One invention at a time. May smiled to herself. Not bad for a single mom who had once struggled to keep the lights on. She got up and walked to her bedroom to start packing as she pulled her suitcase from the closet. Memories flooded back, memories of a journey that had taken her from South Africa to Canada, and finally to the United States. After her divorce, life had been incredibly hard. There were nights when she'd go to bed hungry so her children could eat. She took any job she could. Find often working from dawn until well past midnight worth every sacrifice, she said softly to herself, as she folded clothes into her suitcase. She remembered one particularly difficult winter in Toronto when they couldn't afford to heat their apartment properly. They would all huddle in the living room under blankets, and she would read to them by candlelight to save on electricity. Despite the hardships, she had made sure her children got good educations. She had encouraged their dreams no matter how outlandish they seemed. When 12-year-old Elon had announced he wanted to build rockets someday, she hadn't laughed. She had taken him to the library to get books on rocket science now, as she packed for her trip to California. May couldn't help wondering what this meeting was about. In her experience, when Elon was mysterious, he was usually planning something big. 3 days later, May boarded Elon's private jet at Teterboro Airport. The flight attendant greeted her warmly. "Mrs. Musk, welcome aboard. We should arrive in California in about 6 hours. "Thank you," May said, settling into a comfortable seat. "And please call me May." As the plane reached cruising altitude, a woman about May's age sat down in the seat across from her. "Hello," the woman said with a friendly smile. "I'm Claire. Elon invited me to join the flight since I'm heading to California too." "How nice to meet you," May replied. "Do you work with Elon?" "In a way," Claire said vaguely. "Are you visiting family in California?" "Yes, my son said he needed to discuss something important with me." May explained, though he was quite mysterious about it. "Do you know what this might be about?" Claire shook her head. "I'm afraid I don't. You know how secretive Elon can be about his projects." As they chatted during the flight, May found herself sharing stories about her life and her children. Claire was an excellent listener, asking thoughtful questions that kept the conversation flowing. It must be interesting being Elon Musk's mother. Claire said, "Do you ever worry about him working too hard?" May laughed softly. "Always. That boy never learned how to slow down. Even now I tell him he needs to take better care of himself, but he just says there's too much to do and not enough time." "Does he live in a big mansion?" Claire asked. "I've read so many different things about where he lives." "That's another thing that makes me proud but worried," May said. Despite all his success, Elon lives in a, surprisingly, small house. He's never been interested in showing off his wealth, but sometimes I think he goes too far the other way. He works all the time and barely has a personal life." Claire nodded sympathetically. "It sounds like you're still very much a mom worrying about your son." "Once a mom, always a mom," May replied with a smile. "Even when your children are billionaires." As they continued talking, May didn't notice Claire occasionally taking notes on her phone. She was too busy enjoying the conversation with this friendly woman who seemed genuinely interested in her stories. What May didn't know was that Claire worked for Julian Carter, the interior designer. Her job was to get as much information as possible about May's preferences and memories, details that would help make the house feel like home. As the plane began its descent into California, May looked out the window at the coastline below. She had no idea that somewhere along that coast was a house that would soon be hers. A house that her son had been planning for months. A house that at this very moment was being prepared to withstand an approaching storm. "It's beautiful, isn't it?" Claire said, noticing May looking out the window. "It is," May agreed. "I've always loved the ocean. If I could have chosen anywhere to live, it would have been by the water." Claire smiled and made one final note on her phone: "Ocean view essential." Meanwhile, at the coastal property, chaos had erupted. The storm that had been forecast to hit in 4 days had changed course overnight. It was now expected to make landfall within 24 hours. Julian Carter stood in the driveway directing a team of workers who were securing equipment and covering windows with plywood. His perfectly styled hair was now messy from the wind, which had already begun to pick up strength. "Move those paint cans to the garage," he shouted over the growing noise of the wind, "and make sure all the machinery is covered and tied down." Kimball Musk jogged up to him. Holding his phone, "Just got off the call with the weather service. It's going to be worse than they thought." Sustained winds of 70 miles per hour with gusts up to 90. Julian ran a hand through his hair. That's hurricane. Strength, nearly Kimball agreed. Elon's on his way. He's bringing a generator in case we lose power, as if summoned by his name. A Tesla pulled into the driveway. Elon jumped out, looking concerned as he surveyed the frantic activity around the property. "How bad is it?" he asked, joining Kimball and Julian. "Bad," Kimball said. "They're evacuating some of the lower areas along the coast." "We're safe here," Julian assured them. "This house is on solid rock, well above sea level, but we're definitely going to lose work days." Elon frowned. "We can't afford that. Mom's flight lands tomorrow morning. Tosca's picking her up. Kimmel reminded him she'll keep her busy in the city for a couple of days while we deal with this." A gust of wind blew a stack of blueprints off Julian's car. The three men chased after the papers, catching most of them before they blew into the ocean. "Where are we on the renovations?" Elon asked as they waited. Down the recovered papers with stones, Julian consulted his tablet. "The kitchen is halfway done. Bathrooms are started but not finished. Painting was supposed to begin today. But with this weather, what about the roof?" Kimmel asked, looking up at the house. "Is it secure?" Julian hesitated. "It's an old house. The roof was on our list to reinforce next week," as if responding to his concern. A loud crack sounded from above. A section of roof tiles had come loose and slid down, crashing onto the patio below. "That's it," Elon said firmly. "Everyone inside. It's not safe out here anymore." They gathered the workers and moved into the house, where Julian set up a command center. In what would eventually be the living room, maps were spread out on makeshift day tables, and a weather radar displayed on a tablet showed the approaching storm. "If we lose days to this storm, we'll need to work around the clock afterward to catch up," Julian said, studying the renovation schedule. "Money isn't an issue." Elon reminded him, "Hire more crews, pay overtime. Whatever it takes. It's not just about money." Julian explained, "Some things can't be rushed. Paint needs time to dry, custom cabinets take time to build, and if there's water damage from this storm—" He didn't need to finish the sentence. They all knew what water damage could mean for the timeline. Elon's phone rang. It was Tosca. "Hey, are you guys okay?" she asked, sounding worried. "It's all over the news about the storm." "We're fine," Elon assured her. "But we might lose some time on the renovations. Can you keep Mom occupied for an extra day or two in the city already planned for it?" Tosca said. "I've booked her for a spa day and set up dinner with some old friends who live here. She won't suspect a thing." "Thanks, Toss," Elon said, relieved. "Let me know when her plane lands." As evening approached, the storm. Intensified rain lashed against the windows, and the wind howled around the corners of the house. Inside, the team had set up emergency lighting and was monitoring the weather closely. "I don't like the sound of that," Kimmel said, as a particularly loud gust rattled the windows. Julian nodded. "The good news is that the structure of this house is solid. It's weathered storms for 50 years, but he was interrupted by a new sound, a steady dripping from above. They all looked up to see water seeping through the ceiling in what would be May's bedroom. "That's not good," Julian said, stating the obvious. Elon was already moving. "Show me where it's coming from." They climbed to the attic, flashlights illuminating the dark space. Water was streaming in through a section of the roof, where tiles had come loose. "We need to patch this now," Elon said, looking around for materials. For the next hour, the three men worked to create a temporary fix, using tarps and boards to cover the damaged section of roof. They were soaked and exhausted by the time they finished, but the leak had slowed to a trickle. "We'll need to replace this whole section once the storm passes," Julian said, wiping water from his face. Elon nodded, too tired to speak. He checked his watch. Nearly midnight. He had been awake for almost 2 days straight, between running his companies and dealing with the house crisis. Kimball noticed his brother's exhaustion. "You should try to get some sleep. I'll take the first watch and wake you if anything changes." Elon wanted to argue but knew his brother was right. He needed at least a few hours of rest to function. "Wake me in 4 hours, no matter what." He said he found a relatively dry corner in what would be the living room, and sat down leaning against the wall. Despite the howling wind and the occasional crash from outside, he fell asleep almost instantly into Yeongdam. His dreams he saw his mother's face when she first saw the house. In the dream she was smiling, tears of joy streaming down her face. Then the dream shifted and water was pouring into the house, ruining everything. He jerked awake, heart pounding, but it wasn't a flood that had woken him. It was his phone toss. Ka was calling. "Mom's plane just landed," she said when he answered. "I'm heading to the airport now." Elon checked the time. He had slept for less than 2 hours, but there was no time for more. The storm was still raging outside, and now his mother was in California. "How are things there?" Tossa asked Elon. Looked around at the water buckets catching leaks, the mud tracked across the floors, and the general disarray of the construction site in the middle of a storm. "We've got it under control," he lied. "Just keep Mom away for now." After hanging up, he found Kimball and Julian in the kitchen studying a new problem. The custom cabinets that had been delivered the day before had gotten wet when a window leaked. The wood was starting to warp. "We'll need to reorder," Julian said grimly. "There's no saving these." Elon felt a moment of despair. Then he remembered why they were doing this, for the woman who had never given up. No matter how difficult things got, if his mother could raise 3 children while working 5 jobs, he could certainly handle a storm and some damaged cabinets. "Order new ones," he told Julian. "And let's get more people here as soon as the roads are clear. Nothing is going to ruin tomorrow." As if challenging his determination. A loud crash came from outside. They rushed to the window to see that a large tree had fallen, blocking the driveway, the only access to the house. "Nothing?" Kimmel asked, raising an eyebrow at his brother. Elon's face hardened with resolve. "Nothing," he confirmed. "Get me a chainsaw by the next morning." The storm had finally passed. The sun broke through the clouds, revealing the damage left in the storm's wake. The fallen tree had been cut into neat sections and stacked to the side of the driveway. The roof had been patched. Temporarily, water damage had been contained as much as possible. Elon, Kimball, and Julian stood in the driveway surveying their work. They were exhausted, dirty, and hadn't slept more than a few hours between them. But there was a sense of accomplishment in the air. They had weathered the storm. "We lost at least 3 days of work," Julian said, consulting his tablet. "But I've already called in extra crews. They'll be here this afternoon." Elon nodded, too tired to speak. His phone rang. It was Tuska. "Hey, how's Mom?" he asked, trying to sound more awake than he felt. "She's good," Tuska replied. "I've got her booked for a full day at the spa today. She thinks it's just a treat from me. How are things at the house?" Elon looked at the tarps covering sections of the roof, the mud everywhere, and the general chaos of a construction site that had just survived a major storm getting better. He said, "We need a couple more days." "At least, no problem. I've planned activities through the weekend. Just let me know when you're ready." After hanging up, Elon turned to Kimball. "I need to head back to check on things at SpaceX." "Can you stay here and oversee things?" "Of course," Kimball assured him. "Go, I've got this." 2 days later, May Musk arrived at Elon's current home in Los Angeles. Tuska had told her that Elon was tied up in meetings, but wanted her to make herself comfortable at his place. "That's odd," May said as Tuska helped her with her suitcase. "Elon's never too busy for family visits. You know how he gets when there's a big project," Tuska said with a shrug. "He'll meet us for dinner later." As Tuska left, to run an errand actually, to check on progress at the house, May walked through Elon's modest home. For someone so wealthy, her son lived. Simply, the furniture was comfortable but not expensive. The kitchen was basic. The only luxurious thing was his collection of books, which filled several bookshelves. May smiled to herself. Despite all his success, Elon hadn't changed in the ways that mattered. He still valued knowledge over possessions, just as she had taught him as she. Entered the living room, something caught her eye on the coffee table. Sat a beautifully wrapped box, with a card that said simply, "For Mom." May picked up the box. Surprised it wasn't her birthday for another few weeks, she carefully opened the card. "Mom, follow the clues to find your surprise. Start by opening this box." Love, Elon. Intrigued, May unwrapped the box. Inside was a photo album she had never seen before. The cover read, "The Journey." She opened it to find pictures of their family throughout the years, starting with her holding Elon as a baby. Each photo had a small note attached, written in Elon's handwriting under a picture of their small apartment in Toria. "You made even the smallest space feel like home," next to a photo of young Elon, with his first computer. "You worked extra jobs to buy this for me. I never forgot." Beside a picture of May at one of her modeling jobs, "You showed me that age is never a barrier to following your dreams." As May turned the pages, tears filled her eyes. Each note captured a memory from Elon's perspective, moments when her love and support had made all the difference in his life. The final page held a single photo of the ocean, with a riddle written beneath it. "I flow but never stop. I'm blue but never sad. I have a mouth but never speak. I have a bed but never sleep. Where you'll find your next clue is where you once told me you'd love to live someday." May thought for a moment. The ocean, she whispered to herself. But that didn't tell her where to go next. She read the riddle again. The last two lines. "We're the key. Where you'll find your next clue is where you once told me you'd love to live someday." She had always told her children she'd love to live by the ocean someday. But where specifically was this clue leading her study? Two-faced, she pondered this. She noticed a small arrow drawn at the bottom of the page. It pointed to the back cover of the album. May turned to the back cover and found an envelope taped there. Inside was a note that read, "Check the garage." Curious now, May walked to Elon's garage instead of his Tesla. She found a sleek black car with a driver standing beside it. The driver was a middle-aged man with kind eyes and a professional manner. "Mrs. Musk," he said with a smile, "I'm Marcus. I've been asked to drive you to meet your son." "Where are we going?" May asked, even more intrigued by this elaborate game. "I'm afraid that's part of the surprise," Marcus replied. "Mr. Musk was very specific about not revealing the destination." May laughed. This was so like Elon, creating mysteries and puzzles just as he had done as a child. "Well then, Marcus," she said, getting into the car, "I guess we're going on an adventure." As they drove away from Elon's house, May couldn't help but wonder what her son was planning. Whatever it was, she knew it would be thoughtful. Despite his busy life and enormous responsibilities, Elon had always found ways to show he cared. She thought about the photo album and the notes he had written. It touched her deeply that he remembered so many small moments from their past as a mother. You never know which lessons and experiences will stick with your children. Seeing which ones Elon had cherished made her feel that all the struggles had been worthwhile. "Have you worked for my son long?" May asked Marcus. As they drove about 3 years, he replied, "It's never boring, that's for sure." May laughed. "That sounds like Elon, always full of ideas and energy." "He speaks very highly of you," Marcus said, glancing at her in the rearview mirror. "When he asked me to be part of this surprise, he said it was for the most important person in his life." May felt her eyes filling with tears again. She had always been proud of her children's accomplishments, but what made her proudest was the kind of people they had become, people who valued family and remembered where they came from. As they drove, May noticed they were heading toward the coast. The riddle about the ocean came back to her. Was Elon taking her to the beach? Perhaps for a special dinner? Little did she know that at that very moment, Elon Kimball Tuska and a team of workers were putting the finishing touches on her dream house. The storm damage had been repaired. The new kitchen cabinets had been installed in record time. The garden had been planted with her favorite flowers. Everything was ready for the big reveal. And in Elon's pocket was a set of keys with a red bow keys to the home his mother had dreamed of for decades. Back in the car, May watched as they drove through an exclusive neighborhood with beautiful homes overlooking the ocean. "My goodness," she said to Marcus. "These houses are magnificent. Whoever lives here must be very fortunate." Marcus just smiled and kept driving. The car slowed as they approached a gate. Marcus pressed a button, and the gate swung open to reveal a winding driveway. At the end stood a beautiful house with large windows that reflected the afternoon sun. "Where are we?" May asked, confused. "Is this a hotel?" "You'll see," Marcus said. As they pulled up to the front of the house, standing on the steps were three figures. Elon in the center with Kimmel and Tuska on either side. Elon was holding something in his hands, but May couldn't quite see what it was. Marcus opened her door. "We've arrived, Mrs. Musk." Still puzzled, May stepped out of the car. The ocean breeze caught her hair. As she looked up at her children, all smiling at her with an excitement they could barely contain. "What is going on?" she asked, looking from one to the other. "Whose house is this?" Before anyone could answer, Marcus spoke up. "Mrs. Musk, I believe I need to explain something." May turned to the driver. Confused, "The drive here was actually part of your surprise. Marcus said your son wanted me to share some things with you along the way, but you were so interested in the neighborhoods we were passing through that I didn't get the chance." May looked at Elon, who nodded encouragingly. "Please," Elon said, "hear what Marcus has to say. It's important." Marcus smiled gently. "I haven't just been your son's driver for 3 years. I've been his project manager at Tesla, and there's something I thought you should know about him." May listened as Marcus began to tell stories about working with Elon, stories she had never heard before. There was a time when a factory worker made a serious mistake that cost the company millions. Marcus said everyone expected Elon to fire him on the spot. Instead, he took the man aside and said, "Now you've had $1 million education. Let's make sure we use it. That worker is now one of our top engineers." May's eyes filled with tears as she listened. This was the son she knew, the one with a big heart behind his brilliant mind. Another time, Marcus continued, "There was a terrible storm, worse than the one that just passed through here. Flooding damaged a customer's home and their Tesla. Even though it wasn't covered by warranty, Elon personally arranged for repairs to both the car and their house." He said, "No one should suffer for choosing to support sustainable energy." Elon looked embarrassed. "Marcus, that's enough. You're making me sound better than I am. I'm just telling your mother what I've seen." Marcus replied the Elon Musk. "The public knows isn't the whole story." May reached out and squeezed Elon's hand. "I've always known that," she said softly as they stood there. A light breeze carried the salt smell of the ocean. In the distance, waves crashed against the shore. "The drive was beautiful," May said, looking around. "We passed through areas damaged by the storm, so many people affected. I hope they're getting the help they need." Kimball and Tuska exchanged glances. Their mother's first thought was always for others, never herself. "I've made some donations to the local relief efforts," Elon said, "and I've sent Tesla power walls to families without electricity." May nodded approvingly. "That's my boy." She looked back at the house behind them. "But you still haven't told me why we're here. Is this a friend's place? Are we having dinner here?" Before anyone could answer, Marcus's phone rang after a brief conversation. He turned to Elon. "Sir, there's a situation at the gate. The delivery truck with the special package can't get through. The road is still partially blocked from the storm." Elon looked concerned. "I'll be right back. Mom, there's something I need to take care of." As Elon hurried off with Marcus, May turned to her other children. "Will someone please tell me what's going on?" Kimmel and Tuska both smiled mysteriously. "You'll find out soon enough," Kimmel said, offering his arm. "In the meantime, why don't we take a little walk? The view from the cliffs is amazing." May took his arm, still confused but willing to play along as they walked along a paved path that wound around the property. She couldn't help noticing how beautiful everything was. The garden was filled with her favorite flowers. The architecture of the house was exactly the style she had. Always admired modern but warm with lots of glass to let in natural light. "This neighborhood is lovely," she commented as they reached a viewpoint overlooking the ocean. "I can see why people want to live here. What do you think of this house specifically?" Tosca asked, watching her mother carefully. May looked back at the house. "It's beautiful. Perfect, really. It reminds me of houses I used to look at in tier magazines when you were all little. I used to tell myself that someday when I could afford it, I'd buy a house just like this." One, she laughed softly, of course. By the time I could afford something nice, I was practical enough to know I didn't need all this space just for me. Kimmel and Tosca exchanged another look, both fighting back smiles. "What?" May asked, catching their expression. "What am I missing?" "Nothing, Mom," Kimmel said innocently. "Just enjoying the day with you." They continued their walk, circling back toward the front of the house. As they approached, they saw that Elon had returned. He was standing by the steps, talking with an older man May didn't recognize. "That's our neighbor, Mr. Collins," Tosca explained. "He's lived here for 30 years. "Your neighbor?" May repeated, even more confused now. "Is this your house, Tosca?" Before her daughter could answer, Mr. Collins walked over to them. "You must be Mrs. Musk," he said, shaking May's hand. "Your son has told me so much about you. Welcome to the neighborhood I'm sure you're going to. Love living here." May stared at him, then at her children living here. What is he talking about? Mr. Collins looked uncomfortable, realizing he might have spoken out of turn. "I'm sorry, I thought you already. I should go welcome again." As the neighbor hurried away, May turned to her children, hands on her hips. "All right, that's enough mystery. Someone tell me right now what's going on." Elon rejoined them, looking slightly anxious. "Let's go inside, Mom. There's something I need to show you." As they approached the front door, Maya noticed something she hadn't seen before. On either side of the entrance were planters filled with the exact same flowers she had grown in their small garden in South Africa when the children were young. "Those are the same flowers," she began, but couldn't finish the sentence as a lump formed in her throat. "Yes," Elon said quietly. "They are." He opened the front door and gestured for her to enter first. As May stepped inside, she gasped. The entryway opened into a spacious living room with floor-to-ceiling windows that framed a spectacular view of the Pacific Ocean. "It's beautiful," she whispered, "but I still don't understand. Whose house is this?" Elon took a deep breath. His hand reaching into his pocket, the moment he had been planning for months, had finally arrived. "Mom," he began, his voice unusually soft, "there's something I need to ask you." May looked at her son's face, so serious, and yet so full of anticipation, and suddenly she knew her heart began to race, as everything, the mysterious invitation, the photo album, the riddle, the drive along the coast, all fell into place. "Elon," she whispered, her voice trembling, "what have you done?" Elon stepped forward, reaching into his pocket. His hand emerged holding a set of keys with a large red bow tied around them. "Mom," he said, his voice full of emotion. "Remember that house you always dreamed about? The one by the water with room for everyone?" He held out
The keys to her welcome home. May stood frozen, her eyes moving from the keys to Elon's face and back again. For a moment she didn't seem to understand, then slowly realization dawned in her eyes. "This," she began, her voice barely audible. "This is for me," Elon nodded, unable to speak past the lump in his throat. May's hand flew to her mouth. She looked around the beautiful room again, seeing it with new eyes. "The whole house, this is mine." Kimmel stepped forward, putting an arm around her shoulders. "All yours. Mom Elon bought it for you." But why?" May asked, still in shock. "Because you deserve it," Elon said simply. "Because you gave us everything even when you had nothing." Tears filled Mai's eyes, spilling over and running down her cheeks. I can't. I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything, Torsa told her gently. Mai looked at the keys in Elon's hand. Slowly, she reached out and took them. As her fingers closed around them, a sob escaped her lips. The emotion she had been holding back broke free, and suddenly she was crying in earnest, deep, heartfelt sobs that shook her whole body. Elon stepped forward and